Hi, Kendra. Welcome to the Idaho Bride podcast.
Thanks.
What's your official business name?
Kendra Sutton Photography, but on Instagram, I'm K Sutton Photo.
Okay. I
Yep.
like that. I like it when it's their name because I go off of people, like when I see them in person, I'm like, oh, that's like, Bride, or like that's like
Right.
their Instagram username.
Yes, totally. A lot of people, if they see me out and about, they're like, are you K Sutton Photo? I'm like, yes, but my real name's Kendra, so.
I have done that. I've like seen like a photographer and I was just like, oh, that's so, I don't remember who it was at this point, but it was
Yeah.
a husband and wife, and I was just like, in the wild. If you weren't doing photos, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd probably either be a teacher or an author. I say teacher because that was my profession before photography. I taught middle school English for 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, I got my master's degree in educational administration, and like I loved doing that. It was so hard for me to leave the classroom, but I eventually got to that point where I was doing photography so much and teaching so much that I just didn't have enough time in the day. So I had to choose one or the other, and photography had a little bit more of a flexible schedule. So I went that route, going full time, took the leap of faith. So, and then I say author because ever since I was a little girl, have loved writing, especially poetry. And so I would probably love.
Have a book?
I do, yes. So I just published my first poetry collection at the beginning of this month, right before Mother's Day.
That's so exciting.
So it was really empowering, I would say, just to finally get my story out there. It's about a topic that is kind of taboo. It's just not talked about a lot, which is infertility. And so, yeah, as I was going through my own journey, I just was writing poetry and decided to share it. And yeah, so I published the book and it's on Amazon now, which
That's
is
awesome.
so surreal.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited that I was able to like publish that while doing photography too. Like tapping into both passions was really fun.
Yeah, that is cool. Like, I've just noticed as in the photography world, especially because that's my background as well, but like it's so empowering to just do your creative side. And it's not just limited to photography because like a creative brain is a creative brain.
Yes.
And it's so cool to see when people actually like tap into that.
Yeah,
So that's
it
really
like
exciting.
bleeds over into all aspects of life. Like when you ask that question, what would you be if you weren't a photographer? It's like something with art, something expressing yourself, teaching or writing, something like that. So.
Yeah. And well, I'll just link the book because you said it was on Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can link it. That'll be cool. So anyone who's struggling with that, or if someone just wants to know more about it to like help a loved one,
Yeah.
I think it's really eye-opening for other people too.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit on your experience writing it, or do you want to focus on photography?
I mean, we could probably focus more on photography for this one, but yeah, I wrote the poems basically throughout my entire infertility journey, and I'm still going through it. And so it's kind of cool to see like how I've experienced from the beginning till where I'm at now. So,
Yeah. That is cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Getting back into photography then, do you have any go-to traditions or rituals that you do before a wedding or a session?
I would say I'm not very superstitious per se, but I do like to feel prepared. Before a wedding, like that night, I will always clean my gear and just kind of double check that everything's in its spot in the camera bag. And then I'll lay out my outfit. So that way, when I wake up the next morning, I just I already know what I'm gonna wear. I know everything's where it's supposed to be. And so I just feel more confident. And then I guess another thing that I love to do is showing up early. I just like to get my bearings at the venue, talk with some of the vendors that are there, and just feel like prepared and not in a rush. If you know.
Yeah. So I don't know what that is like.
Yeah. I don't like feeling rushed or pressured, like
Yeah.
running late. And so, yeah, I try to just be on time or early.
Complete opposite. How do you approach weddings differently than other photographers?
We have a lot of talented photographers in the area. Idaho brides are lucky.
Yeah, right?
So I would say we all probably approach it pretty similarly. Maybe one thing that stands out or that sets me apart is I treat each couple very individually. Like I don't shoot every wedding the same. I really try to get to know them and tell their story instead of just like, oh, what are my normal shots that I go to and things like that. And I think it really helps.
Do you think
the
that
brides.
comes from experience, or do you think that's just you?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think the more comfortable you are behind the camera and like shooting weddings and stuff like that, the less you're thinking about posing and getting certain shots and just letting the day unfold naturally. But then I also think that's partly just me, because if I was a bride, you know, I would want my photographer to be capturing me and not, I don't know, trying to stage me, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it does. How would you describe, for those who don't know, your photography style?
I would say it's more on the documentary side, a little bit editorial as well. I like to be a little bit edgy and stuff like that, but also very classy and elegant. I think most of the weddings that I shoot have that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. What's a common misconception couples have about photography?
I kind of think that goes along with what I just said. Like, I think couples feel so scared to be in front of the camera because they think they have to perform or they have to be posed or staged. And that's just not how I approach it, right? Like, I really enjoy documenting things, how they unfold, and trying to tell the couple's story just how it is naturally, instead of trying to make it something that it's not, or trying to make it magazine perfect. You know, I just want it to be them and their details.
Something that you had said in the first part of that question, or the question before, was about not having to perform. I really like appreciate that, because even when I've gotten my photos done like a lot now because I can really value it. But before I was so scared to book a photographer because I was just like, well, I don't know how to pose, like, and everything like that. But I really favor the photos that are more truly candid, not like the fake candids, but like the documentary style and everything like that. And I love the way that things are going in that aspect, because you feel the emotion rather than it just being like a portrait, like a traditional, what you would think of a portrait.
Yeah, definitely. I think couples are surprised. Like, when I'm doing a session, they're surprised at how much movement there is. And I'm not just having them stand still or smile at the camera. Like, they're interacting with each other, right? And then on wedding days, sometimes they're like thinking that I'm going to be in their ear all the time, but really I'm taking more of a step back and letting them enjoy their moment. So.
Yeah. And going off of that, I feel like when there's a lot more movement, it feels like easier, so you don't have like a cheesy smile. Like, you just you feel natural, and I don't know how to word that, but
I definitely think the trick to it is helping them not think that there's a camera there, and just being focused on something else, right?
Yeah.
Being focused on their wedding, on their partner, on something else rather than the camera.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. If a couple's on the fence about hiring a photographer for just a family or a wedding, what would you say?
if they're on the fence, I mean, for a wedding, I think it doesn't make sense not to have one. And I'm not just being biased.
I know.
I think because you're investing so much into that day already, not just money, but like your time and memories, and your most special people are going to be there. And so I think having that captured, it's just a no-brainer. For family sessions, I think those are good to update periodically, whatever that looks like for you. You know, my family, we never took family photos growing up. It was more just like once every 5 or 6 years. And then I have families who come to me every 6 months or once a year. So I think just like establishing that within your own home. But I do think updating them is cool, because your family grows and they change. And so it's important to document that.
Yeah. For sure. I'm going to tailor the question more to if they're on the fence about paying more for a photographer, what would you tell them?
Okay. I think it's really important to have a budget, right? And I think everyone has their own budget, what they can afford and what they want to prioritize. So I think sticking within that budget is smart, but you need to make sure that that budget makes sense for what you're wanting. Like, for example, a florist, if you're wanting a huge arrangement of the most expensive flowers and a big quantity of them, you're going to have to pay more. That's just the reality. And so it's the same with other vendors, especially photography. If you're wanting that polished, classy, very experienced photographer to document your day, you're going to have to spend more. And so I think just making sure your budget fits what you're actually wanting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that like a huge part of that is like, because I did a questionnaire for brides, and I was just like, what do you want to know most from vendors? And they actually said like pricing. So I think that there's this sort of miscommunication or something like disconnect between vendors and brides on what their pricing is and what they should expect. So I think there needs to be a little bit more education as far as that aspect. But I do think that both sides need to understand and like stick within a budget.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would hope that vendors in our area are posting at least a starting price or like the median investment that people are usually booking for, because when you're planning a wedding, you have to know some of that information, and you don't just want to reach out to 1,000 people to figure it out, right? So yeah, I would hope that from our side, from the vendor side, we're doing better and at least posting a number for them to get an idea.
Have always wondered that, like, why not even, because I've noticed that there are several vendors throughout all categories that don't even post prices. And I understand that, like, that's because they want you to reach out to them so that way they have a lead of some sort. On a lot of the bridal groups on like Facebook and stuff, that's their biggest pet peeve, because if you're not in their budget, they don't want to be embarrassed and be like, yeah, I can't afford you. They even say, they're like, if you don't post your prices, I'm not reaching out.
Yeah.
So I think that that's important for vendors to know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes vendors feel like, oh, well, I don't want to give everything away, right? And so that's why I recommend doing a starting price, right? Or just a median investment that most couples spend.
Yeah.
Or like a range, you know?
Yeah. That's great advice. What's the most fulfilling thing about being a photographer in the industry?
I mean, all of it is so fulfilling for me. I truly get so excited to show up on wedding days and for sessions. And I love to sit down at my computer and edit and just everything. But if I had to choose one thing, I think it's just the fact that someone trusts you with their memories, right? And you get to deliver their love story in a creative way. Like going back to that first question that you asked, I love being creative and I love art. And so being able to capture love in an artistic way is so fulfilling for me.
That's really important. What's the most rewarding feedback you've received?
Oh my goodness. My couples are the best. I know every vendor says that, but truly, I love all of just the thank you texts, calls, when they post their photos and tag me. Like, it means so much. But I would say the number one thing that is the most rewarding for me is when someone refers their friends. I think that just shows how much they enjoyed their experience with me, that they're willing to tell their friends about it, and their friends even love me more because of it, you know? And then it's a trickle effect, and I love it. It makes me be able to see my friends more that I, shot in the past, and then now their new friends are becoming my friends, and it's just, it's fun.
That is good. Well, and then like you both have a sense of trust, like working together. Like you as a vendor, you're like, yeah, this person isn't gonna like be a pain in my butt, hopefully. And the couple is like, yes, this person's gonna show up because they did at my friend's wedding or they did for my friend. So I think that's important, because I feel like another thing is there's a lot of like vendors, I want to say photographers specifically, that like don't like stick to their word. And I don't know if that's just because it's such a low barrier to entry. I mean, like cameras are expensive, yes, but like compared to all the other services, I feel like there's just a lot more. And then that creates a whole distrust for the whole like industry. But what's one of the most challenging wedding day situations you've handled?
Okay, I really feel like I've been so blessed. My couples are the best. I've said that before, but even just the vendors that I've worked with and like the wedding guests, everyone has made my job so easygoing and smooth. But there have been a few instances for sure. This might get a little juicy.
I love it.
Yeah, and I'll keep all names anonymous.
Of course.
So when I was shooting a wedding, it was around dinner time and the bride and groom were freshening up and all the guests were just like getting seated at their tables. And all of a sudden I hear a bunch of yelling. And I'm thinking, oh, it's probably not my job to like go look, like I'll just let it be. And so I went to go get the coordinator and I found out that the coordinator was the one yelling and she was fighting with the DJ. So the DJ and the coordinator were in a verbal disagreement, very loud disagreement, and guests started turning and wondering what was going on. And so there really wasn't like any other vendors there to like break it up or like help. And I didn't want the mother or the father or the bride or groom to need to deal with it. And so I went over and I kind of like put like my hands on their chests and I just kind of moved them apart just so nothing would get physical. And I was like, hey, let's talk about this. And so then we were able to like calm the situation down. But yeah, it was just over a timeline. The DJ wanted to change like the timeline by like 10 minutes and the coordinator did not want that. And yeah, it got pretty heated.
Oh my God.
I did later find out that the DJ had been drinking, which is kind of shocking to me. I know there are some vendors who will like, have a shot here and there or take the edge off. But I definitely didn't think that he would get to the point of like arguing that much. So yeah, it was awkward.
Yeah.
And it was challenging. And I never thought that the challenge would come from vendors. I thought it would just be like a bridezilla or something, So,
I can't even believe that.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then the other one that's even more juicy.
Oh God.
Is
like a teacup.
Seriously, I'm spilling all the tea. And yes, again, I am not doing names because,
of course.
Yeah. Okay. So I was shooting a wedding and there was a drunk groomsman. I'm sure lots of stories happen this way. They start out. And he was trying to flirt a little bit, but I'm definitely happily married and made that very clear. And so he backed off. But then later we were on the dance floor. I was taking photos of the bride and groom dancing. And all of a sudden he kisses me on the back of the head, like right here, like on my hair and everything. And I was just like, that did not just happen. Like, so then I'm thinking, am I like hearing things like and so I turn around and sure enough, he's right there. And I look at my second shooter and she's running over to me and he starts to back up and I like look at him and I was like, you do not touch me. Yeah. And I just like ran to the bride. I quietly like told her what had happened and she was super apologetic and everything. And she was like, do I need to remove him? Do you need to leave? Like she was super great about it. And I think, you have to use your integrity there and discern if you do need to leave, like for your safety. But I felt safe. It just was so awkward. So I had like 1 hour left of shooting. And so I had my second shooter just literally stand right next to me and keep eyes on him. Like she was done taking photos for the rest of the night. She was just watching him. And so, yeah, that was crazy. That was very challenging.
Wild.
Very awkward. And I will say most of the groomsmen I work with are awesome.
Yeah.
And I love them. But yeah, that one, I hope I never see him again.
What did your husband say?
Oh, my husband was laughing at first. At first, he was just like, are you okay? Like, that's weird. He's like, do you want me to get involved? And yeah, so he was supportive, but also thought it was funny.
Yeah, at least he thought it was funny.
Yes, we all were able to laugh it off.
What's something that often gets overlooked in wedding planning but makes a huge difference when done right?
Let's see. I think a lot gets overlooked, but one main thing that I've noticed is brides just need to trust their coordinator, and their planner, because they have done so many weddings, right? They know what works, what doesn't work. And so I think brides and grooms sometimes take it upon themselves to try to plan everything, but it's like, no, you hired this person to do it for you and to do it better than you can. And so I think that would probably be the number one thing. And then more photography related, something that gets overlooked is having a solid plan for family photos, because family photos at a wedding, they happen at every wedding, right? Like it's just a thing that you have to do. Usually people hate it. But those are such precious memories. And so I think having a solid plan is really beneficial. One thing, most people will do a shot list, right, with their photographer, so that way they know the combinations. But I think going beyond that, to have the DJ involved, so that way he or she can excuse, I guess, or direct the family to one spot for family photos and the guests to another for cocktail hour. I think that's important because a lot of the times we're trying to round up families, family members, and then this person leaves to go get that person, and then now we're left.
If somebody leaves to go get a
next
drink
on the list, right? Yeah, someone leaves. So I think just having a solid plan, the DJ explaining things, the coordinator helping out, the second shooter having a responsibility, things like that will help it go smoothly.
I do think it's important to note that family photos, expect them to be good, especially with your photographer, but especially for large family photos, don't expect perfect. I hate to say it, but you can be as clear and concise and everybody knows the rules and what's going on, but somebody's not going to listen.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yep. And a lot of people will be like, oh, so-and-so had his eyes closed in the big group shot, and it's hard because as a photographer, you want to help out and you want to be like, hey, 1, 2, 3, smile, open your eyes. And just sometimes someone's not, or someone's looking a direction, or the baby starts crying, so they look down. There's just things that a photographer can't always control or notice, right, in the moment. So I agree. I think being a little bit understanding about those things that can go wrong or, be natural.
I had one who they were like, family, you stay, don't go anywhere. We're doing family photos. It'll be quick. It'll be over with. And as soon as the ceremony was over, somebody went and got a drink and they missed all the family photos.
Oh, no.
And it was such a large group, nobody noticed.
Oh, no.
Until they walked back up and they're like, we're done. Like, because by that point, there was no wrangling everybody back. Yeah.
Yep. Especially if they were in like the big group shots, you know, that's hard.
I was like, what to tell you?
Yeah.
We told them before the wedding, during the wedding, right as they were wrapping up.
Yeah. I mean, for the big group shots, I don't have the bride and groom list names, but in the smaller combinations, I do have them list names now, just so that way it's easier for my second shooter to call out, you know, Brad, Crystal, and like saying all of the names. That way, hopefully we would catch if someone snuck off to get a drink.
What's something about photography that surprises most couples when they get into the details?
I think oftentimes couples think of photography as, oh, my photographer is going to show up, shoot the wedding, and give me a gallery. But there's so much, at least that I like to do beforehand to get to know them, like sending a questionnaire and really trying to understand their visions. That way I can properly photograph their day. And so I think couples sometimes miss that. Like they don't realize that there's more to it than just me showing up. Like I'm thinking about lighting, I'm thinking about scouting locations, you know, lots go into it. I'm thinking about how I want to capture you and love.
Do you do any sort of like engagement session beforehand included?
Yeah, so my packages don't usually include an engagement session, but you can add one on. I've gone back and forth with that. Sometimes I feel like I want them included, and then sometimes I feel like it's better if they add it on because not every couple wants one, or they have a different photographer that they're, you know, already working with, or a friend, something like that. And so sometimes I feel like when they were included in my packaging, they just wouldn't get used. And I just felt bad about that. But I do love when I get to work with them beforehand. Like tonight I have a session with my bride for October. And so I'm going to get to like meet her in person and get to know her and how she, you know, photographs and how she feels in front of the camera and stuff like that. And the groom as well. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I think those are important because, well, and especially when you can like coordinate it with hair and makeup trials. So that way, like, you know how that photographs.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely recommend it, you know, like, especially if they can fit it into their budget.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to couples just starting their wedding planning journey?
I just want to help everyone. I just want to tell them everything I know. I guess I'll give two responses. One more like logical and then one more emotional. Okay. So one piece of advice that's more practical is going back to budget, like we've talked about. I think it's important to research the vendors and their services in your area and not just ask your friend who got married 5 years ago or think you know what the prices are going to be, but really try to research it and then set your budget. Because I think if you set your budget beforehand, then you run into a bunch of issues of not being able to afford certain things. And then going even a little bit further than just setting your budget, but prioritizing your budget. So if you care mostly about the food and the venue, make sure you've allotted the highest pricing for those two categories. And then, you know, maybe your photographer and your flowers are next. And that's like your second category. I would recommend just like prioritizing them. So that way you're happiest at the end of the day. You know, if you don't care about a certain thing, don't put a bunch of money towards it. So, and then emotionally, I think it's important to enjoy the planning process. I know it's easier said than done, but you are only a fiance for a short season of life. Usually it's around a year, you know, for most couples. And it's important to draw closer to your companion, right? Versus letting little details frustrate you and stress you out and pull away from each other. So that would be my advice. Just set your budget, an honest budget, and then trust the process, enjoy the process.
Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to leave them with?
Honestly, I'm just so excited to be an Idaho vendor. Like, I love Idaho so much. I do travel a lot. I have weddings all over the states and other countries, but coming back to Idaho and being, you know, home, it just feels really good. And I feel like we have a lot of great venues and vendors here ready to serve. And so if brides and grooms are just willing to reach out to us, I think we would just be able to have a great time.
I appreciate you so much for being on the podcast and for sponsoring with Idaho Bride.
Yeah, of course. Always. Thanks for, you know, putting the magazine together and all of this work. Your efforts don't go unnoticed.